All right, we have quorum now. Let's call this meeting to order, please. Start off with a roll call. I've been informed that Kayla is out sick. Fred?
Here.
What do you want to go? Nora?
Here.
Myself, present. Lene?
Here.
Patrick?
Here.
And then we have an open seat. So that is everybody at the moment. We do need a motion to approve Kayla's absence, though.
Move to approve Kayla's absence.
And a second.
Second.
That was Fred seconding. Any modifications to the agenda before we adopt it?
Yes. It looks like a error in entering, so number 5 is the City Hall Local Historic District Designation Report. Sorry it didn't show up on the agenda, but it's in the packet. It's just kind of a housekeeping thing, and then the other thing is that would like to move the applicant reviews to be the first thing on the agenda to respect folks' time.
Makes sense to me.
Mentioned, could this be under Commissioner comments of handing this out and talking about Murphy Darden? Mm-hmm. So do that at the end.
Yeah, I think it would probably be better just to add it into the reports section under E. Yep.
Okay.
So amend the agenda to reflect that Fred would, or someone can move to, but Fred would like to make a quick report underneath DEI about the Murphy Darden exhibit that was at the Kalamazoo Valley Museum. If someone wants to make a motion to reflect that.
Move to add Fred's report to the commissioner reports.
I second.
Anybody have anything else? Then we just need a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Thank you. Item C, approval of minutes from August, since we were not in session last month. Nora, I know you had a few things.
Yeah, I noticed that I think it's Lynn Houghton's name is spelled wrong under the approval of minutes section. I think it says C. Holton, and I believe it should say Houghton.
Houghton.
And then I also noticed there are a number of apostrophes missing in O'Connor, especially at the beginning of the document. But that's all.
Thank you. I noticed a few things. Under A, we have Vail approved, comma, move to approve. I think we could delete the first approved. E4, it says assigned, and it should just be signed regarding the agreements for the grants. F1, we have a redundant both. Could delete the second one. When talking about the mound gift, Patrick said can do. It says go, but I think it was do. Still in F1, where it says motion approved, I think we should clarify by unanimous vote. We did vote on it since it was a money matter. And in F2, it says we don't that. I think we can delete we don't that and capitalize the second that. And we will not be something about not be over and extending our budget, the recommendation that you provided to us, Patrick. That's all I had.
On F1, first sentence, Vail, both. I don't think the both needs to be in that sentence.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
That's what we were. Okay.
Anybody else? All right, motion to approve the minutes from August as amended.
Motion to approve the minutes from August as amended.
And a second.
A second.
Thank you, Fred. Public comments portion, do we have any submitted previously or from the current populace?
Are we on? Oh, we're on. Pam O'Connor, City of Kalamazoo. I have 3 or 4 things I'd like to just briefly comment on. The cancellation of the September meeting. It would have been great to have had an opportunity to have tried to reschedule that meeting if possible. Some of the subcommittees had been working on things that were timely, like the spending policy that we had to go back to work on after the August meeting. And we were hoping to be able to present it then. It's in your packet now for consideration. So in the future, if a meeting has to be canceled, if we can look for another opportunity to meet so we can do the business, that would be helpful, at least to those of us at the subcommittee level. I noted on Luis's coordinator's report that there need to be some elections and training. I would ask you to add to that a planning meeting for the coming year for 2025 to set goals. I wanted to check and see if my reimbursement request for postage for the O'Connor Fund mailing needs to be heard here, or is it a matter-of-fact kind of recurring expense? I don't know if I can you give us any answer on that, Luis?
Do you have other things before I?
I'm sorry?
Do you have other things before I reply?
Didn't understand what you said.
Do you have other comments before I reply?
Yes, I do. I was wondering if the spending policy report would be discussed under the financial report, since we worked with the finance and the O'Connor Fund worked together, or whether it should be talked about under the O'Connor Fund.
It looks like I couched it underneath O'Connor Fund, I believe.
Okay.
Just because that's how it was titled, and I didn't think that it made sense to have some redundancies in the agenda, so I just put it all underneath there.
Okay.
Regarding the reimbursements, I think that's something that we certainly need to talk about. I think in the past that Sharon was just doing it on a rolling basis, it seemed to me. I guess that's something we can discuss with the entire commission if we want to continue to have that on a rolling basis, or if it's something that we want to have as a matter of discussion for a vote.
Yeah.
So we can certainly discuss that here as well tonight.
Is that something that can be taken up this evening?
I did not include it on the agenda.
Okay, that means I have to wait an extra month then for action.
Assuming that they say that it's something that they'd like to vote on. If they think that it's something that just can be a recurring rolling fee, then we can get it
Okay.
started this week or next.
Okay. Well, just in response to that, it has always been treated as a recurring expense because it's something that we do every year. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Pam.
Seems to me to be an operating expense, but that's my personal opinion.
How much?
We can talk about it later when we get down to finances.
Okay.
All right, any other public comments at the moment? No? So we're moving the candidate applications before the reports? Or did?
Yep.
Okay. How do we want to proceed with those?
We can just start with them in the order that they're listed in the agenda packet. So Dusty, you can come up first. The way that this will kind of work is you can, briefly present yourself and just talk about yourself. I trust that all the commissioners have had an opportunity to read the materials that were submitted in the packet, such as the application that the city has, and then also the resumes or CVs. After you kind of give a brief introduction, then the commissioners can ask questions that they have to the applicants. And then once we've
heard from both applicants, we'll have a vote. There is only one open spot on the commission tonight, so I know that there are 2 applicants, but there will only be one person that is recommended for appointment. Just a matter of housekeeping before we get to the voting process, but the way that the voting works is that the vote will be posed to recommend the appointment of one of the applicants for the Historic District Commission or Historic Preservation Commission to the City Commission, and then that will be sent along to the City Commission. So I know it's a mouthful of a vote.
Is our capacity limited by the number of seats on this dais?
What do you mean?
Could we change our number and maintain our quorum of 5?
Elaborate.
Could we expand how many seats we have?
To a higher number?
Yes.
To 9? We could. I think that originally this commission was at some point at 9.
9.
We do not want to have an even number. In the event that there is a split decision, we would need someone to be able to have a deciding vote. It's certainly something that can be discussed. I think the alternative to that would be just reducing the quorum number, which is something we discussed before, and I think that would we be able to field 9 members would be my concern.
Gotcha. Would the chair possibly be abstaining in case of a tie?
This is something that I foresaw with this one, and I did not fully anticipate that.
Since I can't produce motions myself anyway.
Parliamentary system.
So, I mean, abstaining is something that I have to leave up to the commissioner. It's not a black and white matter. I think that's something that always needs to be left up to be decided by the commissioner. You can only abstain if you feel that you have a conflict of interest that's present. You're not allowed just to abstain just because. Am I answering the questions? Were you speaking about in the event that we expanded to a 9-member commission or this evening?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. And we'll hand it over to you now.
Okay. Hi, my name is Dusty Morton. I'm interested in joining your committee. My primary interest is in cemetery preservation and renovation, but I do have a long interest in building historical preservation as well. I'm from the Philadelphia area, a lot of history there. I have a familiarity with the districts and how they work. I don't have a smooth speech, I definitely apologize. But with my work currently in Vicksburg, I am looking to learn more about this field, I want to say. I do feel like this would be useful for me, and I have a volunteer problem, so I love to volunteer for things. And this does all look very interesting to me. And that's my very unpolished speech.
Thank you very much. And I'll hand it over to the commissioners now for any questions you may have.
What areas would you be interested in volunteering for? Fundraising or research, or what areas would interest you?
Primarily, I think research, but I'm also very, I'm an active volunteer in varied areas in Kalamazoo, so I do have a sensitivity for areas that need more help than others, meaning that I would pitch in if there is a clear need, a lack of people on a committee.
Thank you.
How long have you been in the area?
11 years at this point.
All in Vicksburg?
My love started in Vicksburg, but I do live in the Portage area primarily, yes. I lived in Vicksburg for a year. When I moved here, within 2 weeks, I had, my husband works in Vicksburg, so I kind of launched myself right into working for the Taste of Vicksburg event as a volunteer. Like I said, I volunteer a lot. And that gave me some sense of, oh my gosh, it's the amazing history in those buildings that clearly needs help, and is getting some now from Scott, working on the mill project and such. But yeah, I also work at the Kalamazoo Civic, Kalamazoo State Theater. I'm sort of familiar with what the state has done to preserve their building. Being aware of the Civic working to renovate that beautiful copper dome that they have, I think it's all great about this city. It makes me want to be more involved.
You were talking about how you want to expand your knowledge of historic preservation. I mean, is there anything specific that you'd like to learn being on this commission? And it's okay if it's just like general, more information. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I'm not on the spot. I mean, I am, but I'm not, right? I guess how to do it right. How things are funded, how you select the priority of projects, how to, from talking with Mr. Pina, not everything is going to be 100 years old and worth preserving. So I'd like to understand more of that aspect of preservation as well. Like in Philly, everything's old, mostly. So, thinking about things like being 50 years old and worth preserving was very eye-opening to me. So.
Since we have recently lost 2 commissioners who were employed at museums, can you tell us more about your past experiences? I saw some of that on your resume.
Right, which I should have mentioned, yes. I worked, again, for about 11 years at the Academy of Natural Sciences in Philadelphia, primarily in their zoo exhibit, living animal exhibit. But I also did work with their fossil preparation lab at Sir Dinosaur Hall. Not as much in collections as I would have liked, but yeah, I have, boy, how do I put that sentence together, Kyle? Sorry, my thought is gone. When I think of the Kalamazoo Civic and I think of the museum, they seem so close because of their age, and so much it feels familiar, which doesn't really apply to your question either. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there. I'm so sorry.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
You, Dusty? And, no, I was just saying thank you, sorry. And Melissa, you can come on up. And once again, if you just want to introduce yourself and give a brief overview, and then we'll hand it over to the commissioners for questions.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Melissa Paddock. I graduated from Western with my master's and bachelor's in public history, with my master's in April 2023 through the Accelerated Graduate Degree Program. I worked as an intern at the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation after graduating, which was very exciting. And then I currently work as a data analyst at Charles River Laboratories over in Mattawan. So a little bit unrelated to history, which is one of the many reasons that I'm so excited to have this opportunity to apply for the commission, because I have such a deep passion for history, and through my career I'm not really able to dive into that as much. And so when this opportunity presented itself, I really wanted to use it as an opportunity to grow my own knowledge based off of my experiences at Western and my various internships, and hopefully turn my career more towards the history side, because that's ultimately what I want to do. And then an interesting fact I always like to share is I am actually Miss Michigan for the National American Miss System for this year. So I'm super excited to not only use my platform, which is called History in Our Hands, focused on historic preservation, and continue working on that, hopefully, in this role.
Thank you. Commissioners?
What are your strengths and what you believe you could bring to the committee regarding preservation?
Well, I have a lot of experience through my master's degree. That was a great opportunity to learn so much about the field of public history. And while it was not super specifically focused on historic preservation, that kind of became more of my focus as I continued on in my studies, with the culmination of that being my honors thesis that I had presented and published for when I graduated from the Lee Honors College, which is a digital walking tour and research paper of Western's East Campus, focusing on the history of the buildings and really being able to get history in the hands of the public and being able to share that with them. So I feel like I have a lot of experience in that realm. I've also held various leadership roles during my time at Western, and through pageantry, having my platform, I've really been able to focus on community service, and I really think that I can bring those leadership and communication skills to the commission.
So you mentioned a project that you had as a part of the Michigan Miss or whatever program. How do you see that being as a part of the commission, and do you see a way to incorporate that?
Yes, I actually definitely just switched my pageant platform. It was something more pageant related, and I have wanted to get back into history, and so I really wanted to bring that to the forefront of my service in my year as Miss Michigan. And so it's definitely still in the beginning stages, but one of my biggest goals and something that I'd love to bring to the commission is using my digital walking tour that I created and working to expand that, and hopefully creating, whether with the commission's help or as a personal side project, getting that tour somehow physically integrated on East Campus, because it has had such amazing engagement since being posted in 2022. And I think that I love doing the research for it, and I would love to have the opportunity to continue expanding that project, telling that history, and making it actual part of East Campus so that the greater public can have access to that information, and taking it out of a solely digital form that it is now and bringing it into the public.
That's an exciting prospect considering past preservation losses on that campus. We also, in the past, have had a history tour of vacant spaces in Kalamazoo, which has gone away, and that feels like that'd be something that would be kind of right up your alley, duplicating your thesis work. I'm not asking you to do a whole thesis, obviously, again, but if that is something that you enjoy doing, we've been talking about reviving it as a revenue-generating event and public education outreach type of thing every year. So, yeah, just throwing that out there.
That would definitely be something that I'm interested in. With my career not being so much history focused, it's really given me time outside of my work to focus on research. And so I've definitely been itching to get another project under my belt and kind of start digging into some more history. So kind of another reason why I've been really getting excited about expanding my current digital walking tour, just to get back into that research.
Any other questions for this candidate? No, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I'll just hand it over to you all now for a period of discussion. And then people can make motions at their will.
Can we vote later in the meeting?
No. I wanted to be able to do it now to allow the candidates respect their time and be able to get them out if they would like to get out. They can stay if they would like to. I don't think that this matter necessarily needs more time. I think that we've had the information presented, and now that the commissioners can discuss and make motions. I suppose that a table could be made, a motion could be made for tabling it, if someone wanted to, but that would need support from other commissioners.
To another date or another time, or either?
I would need to look into the Roberts Rules things to be able to see if that's a possibility. Which I could do right now to see if, the postponement would be moving into a different date. I believe tabling, you could just put it on the table, and if it gets left on the table, it gets left on the table, so.
Laura, how did we do it with you? I don't even remember.
I think it was like I sat down and then you talked.
Yep.
One applicant.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, though.
I like your idea of putting 2 on the board, giving us reserves, but the number of seats are, I was just counting it real quick.
That's what I was pointing out.
It's too bad we got to be limited by the setup of the,
Whoever shows up first can actually be in the meeting.
the other one stands up. Who's late stands up.
So,
This just brings us back to our wonderful Robert's Rules training that we had earlier, where the power is truly with the commissioners to be able to make motions for postponement or for tabling if they wish. But again, I just wanted to be respectful of the applicant's time this evening.
Lene, it sounds like that's something you wanted to pursue. Would you like Luis to look into that further?
I would do it right now if we needed to, so.
No, whatever you guys want to vote, that's fine. So we can only pick one.
Unless we change our quorum and somehow modify our seating.
We may modify the seating.
The numbers, microphones, and seats.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, wait.
Right.
Yes.
Which sounds like it's not instant, right?
Not at all instant.
Okay. I think that they're both excellent candidates. And I think they both can bring value to the commission. Are there any other thoughts or?
Do we have to run a double check on residency requirements as well, based on our current composition?
The minority of the commission is allowed to be.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Are we all currently within Kalamazoo right now?
Yes.
No.
Well, sorry. Besides Kyle, but we would be at the same setup that we were at when Ryan was on the commission.
Well, I think that they are excellent candidates. I think that, they both deserve to be able to flourish on the commission. So with that said, I will resign effective today, and so that you're able to take those two. I will continue to work on committees, but I don't want you to miss out on that opportunity for some new eyes and new ideas for the commission. So I don't know. I don't think we need to vote on if they will be on the commission.
We do.
Oh, okay.
But also, Luce is looking at term limits, and you're timing out in March, just FYI.
Yep.
Okay, you're aware.
So I'm almost done anyway.
So, obviously, your prerogative, whatever you'd like to do.
Mm-hmm.
But if you would be willing to stay on until we actually get them appointed.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
But it's not a question of can we take them both. You can.
Yes.
Effective when my resignation is approved.
Yes.
Okay? Fair?
If that's what you want to do.
I'm almost done anyway.
So what's the phrasing we need to do to vote on one or both?
Someone would make a motion to recommend the appointment of an applicant or applicants to the Historic Preservation Commission to the City Commission and Mayor.
Besides the
Oh,
chair.
what he said. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever.
So moved, I think she means.
Yes.
Okay, so moved. Thank you.
Wonderful. Can we have a second, or it's not a roll call because it's not money?
I think we should have a roll call for this, yeah.
Okay.
I'll second.
Gotta check with the second. And then going down the list, Kayla's absent. Fred? We vote to recommend appointment of both candidates.
Yes.
Nora?
Yes.
Myself, yes. And I mean, the motion proposers still need to vote?
Yes.
Okay. Lene?
Yes.
And Patrick?
Yes.
Okay, so you guys have both been recommended for appointment. Probably by the end of this week, I'll get the memo drafted up for both of you. I'll send those along to City Commission. City Commission will then review them, and then they'll either approve or deny the appointment. Once that happens, it looks like now we have some folks that are working in the clerk's office who will reach out to you regarding the decision that's made by City Hall, or by the commission rather, and I'll also reach out to you.
Thank you, Lene, for walking us through that and getting us through. We're sad to see you go, and we can look at more definite dates, I guess, because I'll have to think about that one a little bit more for the actual effectiveness of the resignation. But yeah, sad to see you go. So.
Thank you for your service to the commission.
Thank you so much. It was fun.
His longest standing current.
I think it would probably be fair to say that, you know, by the next meeting, then I believe that we could have the resignation effective by then. I just don't want you to have to be up in the air, kind of floating in between being a sitting member and not being a sitting member. So we will discuss that.
All right. I think that concludes F. We'll go back to E, reports. Candidates, you're welcome to observe or move on with your evening as you so choose. E1 is our financial report.
Yes. So this is the city finances. Once again, I think we're getting more and more acquainted with this. If you look at the balance line at the very top on the furthest right, you can see that we have $1,200, $1,276.27 left in our city-held account. I'm just going to move over to the expenditure too, just so we can see what the expenses, they line up if you look at the amount of money that we've had so far. So spend $3,451. And I know that we've moved recently towards looking at the O'Connor Fund as the primary source of funding more and more. So the budget will be submitted formally for next year that we developed as well, I believe by next week. So everything is ironed out for that as well. Happy to answer any questions that folks have. If the commissioners would like to. I guess it depends on where you all would like to take the money out of.
I mean, it's for the O'Connor Fund. It seems like it come from the O'Connor Fund, and we designated O'Connor 1 for operational expenses. Correct?
That's correct. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, how much is this? I don't know that I've ever seen a line item for it, and that's why it's been $73. Oh, okay.
Stamps and envelopes.
Okay. Then I think yes, I'm okay.
But since that's a reimbursement, I mean, if we want to vote on it to be official about Money Matters, we
We can't vote on it.
Well, it has to be spent first. Yes.
Yes.
And
I think the question, and this is probably a wonderful segue into our next item as well, is that in the past, this has just been something that has not been voted on. It's been just a recurring expense. Would the commission, as it is not on the agenda tonight, would the commission like to keep it as a recurring expense that does not need to be voted upon, or no? Would they like to pull it off of that in effect and bring it to the November meeting?
I'm okay with keeping it as a recurring in this case. Yeah.
do we need to establish a cap?
Yeah.
doesn't sound like it's, well, I'm pausing because, you know, every 2 months they go up on stamps, the cost of a stamp. But, I mean, we'll have to just readjust it, but for now, I would just say $100 annually.
Up to.
May I give you a little bit more information?
Sure.
Every 5 years, I need to buy stationery. And that comes to more than $100, and paper expense is going up. So, yes, the postage is a recurring expense, which also increases. We've had a couple of large ones in the last couple of years. I will need to buy stationery and envelopes next year, just so you know. So if you set a cap of 100, you're going to have the discussion again next year.
Well, I think that it should be separated. You know, the stamps will be 100, but then have another line item for, you know, every 5 years or so for the cost of the envelopes and the paper. Because then you can divide that every 5 years, how much we need to put into that bank. How much are you spending on the paper currently and the envelopes?
I can't tell you for sure, Lene, because the last time I bought them was 3 years ago. I think it was in the neighborhood of $150. I mean, it's not a big expense. And frankly, I don't think it deserves this much attention.
Yeah.
But
This is a very small expense to fund our operations. You know, this is the money that's going to be funding our operations going forward.
yeah,
At $73 and maybe another $100 for that next year, that's going to be last for 5 years. I think this is fine. I think we can leave it.
So we'll just keep it as a automatically approved recurring expense?
Right,
As needed.
because what you can do is you can cap it at 100, so that's $25 a year. Oh, that's only $75. No, that's $125. So you've made your, you understand what I'm saying? If it's $70 for the stamps, but you put aside $100 every year, you'll have her every 5 year envelopes and letterhead, and then also paying for the stamps. So that's just what I think. You know, and then maybe every couple of years you're going to have to readjust for the cost of stamps and things.
If you set the cap higher, you don't necessarily have to spend it, or do you? You're like 150 if the cap was at 150. And you spent 100, you could take and move the 50 to the next year.
I don't see why we need a cap on this, just because we don't have this for any other expense. And, you know, we have pre-approved payment for lunches for the grant making, and we pre-approved an amount there, but this seems like a lot of discussion about something that is very small potatoes.
So is this an authority we can just vest in our coordinator to handle reimbursements upon?
It has been for time immemorial, so.
Then we shall proceed as such, it sounds like.
Okay. So I'll start working with the O'Connor Fund then and the Kalamazoo Community Foundation to get the money to get it dispersed back to you. Thank you all. Segueing then into because we're kind of already there, the O'Connor Fund summary. O'Connor won the net assets, right, in October, $71,398.22, which is up from August. I know that we skipped a month there, but it was $68,202.54, The current available balance is $14,968.25. And if we look at O'Connor 2, the net assets are $446,332.06, which is up from August, once again skipping September, at $426,354.90, with total spendable of $57,811.29.
We're supposed to be getting the new releasable soon, correct? The next year's,
To me, when I looked at it, it looks like it usually comes in December.
okay, all right. I don't know why I had October in my head, but, okay.
Any questions from the commissioners on the O'Connor Fund report? Okay, move on. Recap of our final gravestone cleaning that occurred.
Oh, we have some more stuff underneath O'Connor, sorry.
Oh, my
Yeah,
bad.
so we had been working on the gift policy. And page 15 has Pam graciously sent in what we have been working on here. The major change from what we had talked about previously was adding in some baseline number that we need to have in the spendable portion of the O'Connor 2 account in order to make a gift. And the logic here was we wanted to ensure that there is enough in order to fund the current year's O'Connor Fund grant and the next year's O'Connor Fund grant in there already. And this is kind of to put in a buffer in case for some reason we don't get any sort of release from the community foundation into the spendable portion in a given year, like the market is way down or something like that. So we have built in something there so we can ensure that we're funding the competitive grant the following year. But conditional on that being the case, then we feel like we can make a gift. I'm sorry, I need to be clear with my words here. Conditional on the funds being available for the current year's competitive grant and the subsequent year's competitive grant. As long as that money is there, we have money to make a gift.
Subject to the requirements set up forth as outlined.
Yes, subject to the other kind of things that we have talked about previously, but that's the one kind of safeguard we have in there to make sure that we are making the fund, we are gifting the funds while protecting what we already have.
And also including Luis as gatekeeper and a presentation to the commission and adoption by a sitting commissioner to help with a written proposal.
Yes. So how this should work, somebody should be approaching Luis, but it may come through one of us as well. And they should make a presentation at a meeting, and then one of us should work with one of the person who is asking for a gift to come up with just a short statement about how the criteria are met, the amount requested, making sure that all of these basic criteria that we have are met, and so we can, and then vote on it on the next at the next meeting. But that is what we've worked on and have kind of agreed that that's the best way that we should go forward on this. Make sure that things that we are gifting align with our goals.
Just making sense to everyone? I think we just need to move to adopt said policy.
Motion to accept the policy.
And a second.
A second.
As this is a spending policy, it would affect future money, so would you like a roll call vote?
I would, yes.
Fred?
Yes. Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Lene?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Passed unanimously. Was there another component to this section of the agenda?
One more. That I trust folks have read once again. I will just gloss over it unless Pam, you'd like to read the report entitled the O'Connor Fund Report for the KHPC for the meeting, October 2024 meeting.
Actually, two things. I'll keep it short. We have set a meeting date to go over the proposed edits to the online homepage and actual application itself. It's going to be on the 28th of October at 5 p.m. And there are some outstanding things that we discussed a couple of months ago that needed to be discussed by the entire grant-making commission. So that's when we will do those things. The other things, unfortunately, Kayla's not here tonight, but the other things are all things that we discussed at the grant-making meeting at the time we made grants, changes that we needed to look at and edit as needed. And so Kayla and I have gotten all of those done. They are ready to go. The only things that need to be decided on are the ones that we agreed the grant committee needed to work on. And the only other thing I wanted to point out to you was that, and I have been cautioned that this is going to change, but something happened in the last couple of months that I didn't think I was going to live long enough to see, and that was that the assets of the O'Connor Fund now exceed $500,000. It's been a long 23 years, and it of course will fluctuate, but that was a personal goal of my own, and it's nice to be there. Thank you.
Yay.
Yeah, thank you, Pam, and that is monumental. I think that that's huge, and I think that we're so lucky here in the city of Kalamazoo to be able to control such a sizable fund to continue preservation work in the community. So that is a huge deal to be able to get those funds up over $500,000. It's a huge deal to have commissioners that have been working so diligently to set up these financial subcommittees and get spending policies in place so that we can ensure that that fund continues to grow and be well managed. So thank you all for that, and I really do think that this is a very big deal. A couple more things, sorry, on this one. Item 6 on this is, or goal 6, item 4 is the competitive grant awards. So we were able to get 2 signed documents back from the Civic Theater and from the Disability Resources of Southwest Michigan, Disability Network, rather, apologies. Earlier this week, the Civic did send me over some stuff. Their work is completed. I still need to review the work that they've done, so they're moving right along. They got on it extremely quickly. I can touch base again with Disability Network to see where they're at with that. The Stewart Neighborhood Association has declined the gift for the amount of money that was requested. So they did formally decline it in an email to me. I just don't know if the finances were working for them at that point. So, I think it's really important for us to, we still made grants this year. I think that we still met our goal. We went above and beyond that goal. I think it's remarkable that in the past 2 years, we've given away like so much money. It's a lot of money, thousands and thousands of dollars. Yes, to the community. So I still think that that's something we can pat ourselves on the back about. I didn't want to throw out a number because I can't do the math in my head right now to get the number. So it's still a huge accomplishment, and I think that we'll be able to continue to forge forward with this program and continue to be able to help folks. So again, thank you all, and thank you, Pam, for the diligent work on this.
Lots to put in that ask letter. All right, now we'll proceed to E3, the final gravestone cleaning of the year recap. Luis, you said you attended?
Yes, I did. Gary Swain was there, and there was majority of the folks that were there were from Dr. Evan Kutzler's, one of his classes at WMU. He approached me afterwards and asked if he had students come, and I said, yes, you did have quite a few students come. So it was great to be able to see the university involvement in this project. It was great that we were able to get out one more time before the water got shut off. And it's great that we have such a good relationship with Gary and the Friends of Kalamazoo's Historic Cemeteries to be able to continue doing this work. And I appreciate immensely the organizational work that Gary's done in moving that forward. So, between 13 and 17 people, I didn't get the most solid count. I was there and participated, and it was a good way to send off the gravestone cleanings for 2024.
Great, thank you. That moves us on to the quarterly Section 106 report.
Just a lot of exciting reports this evening. So just once again, as I do every quarter, just to give you guys the recap, the City of Kalamazoo has a programmatic agreement with more or less MISHDA and the State Historic Preservation Office that, or I guess it's my place maybe, that allows us to be able to review Section 106 projects in-house when the money is coming from home or HUD or CDBG funded projects. The 106 review just means that if federally funded projects are going to be occurring on properties that are National Register eligible or on the National Register, that they need a review. I think that this is a great tool that we have in the City of Kalamazoo to be able to make that process go a little bit faster so they don't need to be sent to SHPO since I can review them myself. The first portion of this document, so through number 9, deal with projects that would have affected historic properties, either eligible or listed properties. When you get down to page 4 of the document, and I don't know how you guys are looking at it, but where it says also reviewed no historic property, those 52 properties were, they did not have historic properties on them or they were not eligible. I think that there's one ongoing still that I have not put on here, so when that gets finished, I'll put that on there as well, and that's a much larger project, but I think that's something for us to consider, and I don't think it was something that we considered initially when we started doing all of our survey work. That as we go out and we do the survey work, the survey that was conducted in Edison in 2018, 2019-ish area, and the survey that's underway right now to be able to survey the north side, Douglas, south side, and Oakwood, we are going to greatly expand the number of properties. This is just my guess, and I can't say this with certainty except in the case of Edison, that are going to be National Register eligible. We are not doing the surveys in any capacity to go make new historic districts, and I don't want anyone in the public to get the impression that by doing a survey we are making new historic districts. But we are making, when the consultants say that something could be eligible, we are expanding the pot of properties that are National Register eligible in the City of Kalamazoo. And that means that, and I don't mean this for good or for bad, but it's just a consideration that we should have, that those projects are going to then require the more intense level of review when this money is being dispersed to them. I'm happy to answer any questions that folks have.
Didn't there used to be the totals at the bottom? I don't recall seeing that this time.
The totals of what?
Like the number.
So we had 52 that have been reviewed. This is just the running. I have not divided this out by quarterly. I've just been adding. People can. Quarters are kind of confusing. I have to look at the computer every time to understand when one ends and another begins. But there have been definitely lulls that I've seen. So 52 right now for the ones that don't have any historic properties, and 8 for the 8 reviews and properties that are historic.
Then explaining maybe for our candidates and for Nora, the ones that say they could be significant historically will be submitted through the HDC for anything that has exterior work.
Not necessarily.
No?
If it's in a local historic district, then yes. If not, per the programmatic agreement, I would only be reviewing it if it's not located within a local historic district. I think that you can see that a majority of these projects that we're looking at are, and this is something that we talked about either last quarter or we talked about it recently, was the majority of these projects that we're seeing are going to be things, really quality of life things, right? So we're looking at furnaces, we're looking at plumbing, we're looking at the same things that we looked at when we were developing our program with community homeworks, to be able to give them money to do the work, correct? We want to make sure that people are staying in homes or just in structures, because when people stay in structures or homes, it preserves that home, it preserves that block, it preserves the neighborhood, and we're able to then contribute to making sure that people are staying in that house and they're not uncomfortable. A majority of this work does go to that then, not to be redundant, but plumbing, furnaces, water heaters, things like that. I think that the other large category that we're looking at then, kind of right along with that, would be lead remediation as another large portion of the work that we see. Admittedly, I think lead remediation is one that starts to get a little bit trickier when you're looking at how do we remediate things that might be very character-defining features of a property. And that can take some navigating. And then kind of the last bucket that we don't see that often, we generally see it in areas that are not National Register eligible or listed as demolitions. And generally we see those on a smaller scale with things like garages that have been caved in for a while.
Any questions on this report? Thank you, Louise.
Yeah.
Next, we have I'm going to say update, I guess, on City Hall Local Historic District designation efforts.
Yes, and I trust everyone's read it. My computer is not loading right now. Pam, would you like to come up and speak?
Just to sum it up, we have not had a lot of movement since we met in April or May on this, because we're still waiting to talk to the city administration. I did note that I talked with Encore Magazine. They're interested in an article about how City Hall was constructed and the story behind it, and I have started the draft for that to be delivered to them by the end of the year. There are no guarantees that they will take it. I hope they will, because it sounds like there was some interest. And there is a good chance, if I'm not a good enough job of telling a good story in a limited number with a limited number of words, it'll get edited. And so we'll see what happens after the first of the year with that. But I do plan to get the draft to them, and I'll just put in a plea again. The sooner we can meet, I don't think we can take this to the end. I don't think we can complete it by the end of the year any longer. I held out hopes that we would, but 5 or 6 months has gone by. And so I'll put in a plea again to our coordinator to have a conversation with the deputy city manager. Mm-hmm. Please, thank you.
It's not for lack of trying, and I don't mean to say that in a way that would be misconstrued by anyone in the city administration. I just think that the scheduling has proved more difficult than we thought initially. I know that you had a point on your report that speaks to the fact about some sort of deadline, and I was trying to comb the ordinance real quick to see about the establishment, and there was a time frame that you referenced, and I just wanted to find that in the ordinance, and I'm not finding it as fast as I wanted to. Here we go. And I don't know if there is a time frame. I don't think we got to the point where we were imposing any sort of time frame on ourselves in the process initially.
Well, actually, yes, we did. It's part of our plan.
No, I know, but per ordinance. The language in red that you included in your report, unless the coordinator's intended meeting with the deputy city manager takes place very soon, I don't believe that it can be completed. I guess I thought to take, I don't think we'll need to reinitiate any of the processes.
Oh, right.
Okay.
I meant that I don't believe we'll be able to complete it as per our work plan.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page, that we are not again, not trying to dismiss the work plan deadlines.
Right.
And I apologize for the
Right.
misinterpretation there, but I think that we're still well within local and state law of just picking it up from where we had it before, so.
Right. The only problem I see is that the information is getting old now, the research, you know? I don't know what might have to be added or taken away, but it may have to be looked at again if we don't get some action from the city before long.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Pam.
So, still waiting.
Yeah, and I don't want it to be, interpreted that I'm in any way impatient or dissatisfied, so I just know that there can be scheduling conflicts, and I can certainly reach back out again. I just don't want to be too pushy, I suppose, but I will reach out again.
Okay. Brings us, Fred, you said you have some packets?
Yes, several weeks ago, I attended a program at the Kalamazoo Valley Museum. It was a panel discussion and a movie screening on the life and legacy of Murphy Darden Sr. And it's currently, I'll hand these out in just a minute, from the museum. It's currently an exhibit through March about his work and his efforts at telling and teaching about Black history in the Kalamazoo area. And he spent a whole life, he worked at the Parchment. He grew up in Mississippi during the Depression, moved to Kalamazoo in the 1940s, married, met his family, or had his family raised here. But along with his job at the Parchment Paper Company, he spent a lifetime collecting artifacts, images, and documents. The title says he was an historian, sculptor, and painter. He loved to go to schools and teach kids about Black history. One of his passions was, it's on the cover, the painting here is Black Cowboys. And the program highlighted that, and lots of people in the city spoke out about their contact with Murphy Darden. I think it fits right in with what we're trying to do about promoting undertold stories in Kalamazoo. Did anybody know Mr. Darden or met him? Let me hand these out. And it tells you about the exhibit. Did you get one, Louise? Okay. Got a couple for our two board members if you'd like.
I stopped in the gallery during a recent art hop. I think it was like 2 months ago. The KBCC gallery downtown.
He did lots of local stories of Van Avery protests. He did artwork on that, and nationwide civil rights stories. He learned how to be an artist through some online courses. He didn't go to formal school for being an artist, but I guess he ran a Black History Museum out of his house. He was an advocate trying to get a Black History Museum in Kalamazoo, along with several other leaders in the area. That hasn't come to fruition, but his house was basically a museum with all the work he did. And his family donated the things to the Kalamazoo Valley Museum. And that's a good place for it to set.
Thank you, Fred, for bringing those in and sharing them with everyone. I think that's a great example of us being able to being able to just talk about some things that are also going on in the community to spread the awareness about that, right? And share with folks in the community that Kalamazoo Valley Museum is having an exhibit like that. It's an extraordinary story, and there's extraordinary things in there from Mr. Darden's life. So thank you, and it's great that the museum's doing that.
Includes an Allen Chapel stained window.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the exhibit runs through March 2nd, it says on the cover. I imagine our colleague Regina was involved in setting this up and getting it organized.
I'm sure that she was. So stop down there and see her at some point too. And I would encourage folks to be able to get down there and see that as well while it's still up and running. Because again, I know that we're all kind of history nerds, but that's a great story, and those are great things that the family donated to the museum for the entire community to be able to enjoy and learn from.
This is a different family from the gentleman who came to visit us a few months ago?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Fred. That brings us, I think, to the coordinator's report.
I believe it does. Sorry, I forgot to put the count on this time, so I will just give you an updated count of approvals at the next meeting. I think the two big things, one is a training. We now have 4 commissioners that are very new, Kayla, Nora, and following appointment, Melissa and Dusty. So, Kyle, you expressed to me in an email that you thought that a retreat would be the best approach for this. I want to gauge people's interest to understand when would be the best time. When can we set something up where a majority of us can at least get together to be able to go over just a kind of general training for the HPC.
Yeah, I know you said the HDC has had one recently. Where was that located? What did they do?
That was just one evening here at City Hall.
Oh, well, that's what we did last year, too.
You guys had much better attendance than the HDC did, so.
Go us. Well, I was thinking we could, I don't know, hunker down somewhere on a Saturday, have lunch as needed during or after, or how long it takes and when we set, but that's kind of what I had in mind. Since it usually takes a few hours anyway, I feel like it's really taxing to do it all in one evening. And then last year when we combined training and planning, it was a little overwhelming. So I think if we had separate sessions for that, it would make more sense. But I don't know if we can schedule that when we're missing nearly half of who would be involved. But I wanted to make sure it was on the radar that it should happen soon over the winter.
Yeah, so I think that we could certainly shoot for November, December for that, right? I think you're right that we need to have more input about scheduling the dates. I think that we could do some of that discussion via email. We could send out a poll and start to schedule dates. Also need to start, we would need to look at, and I just, risk averse me, look at, retreats. We are certainly allowed to do. I would still post it, probably would still open it up to the public. We need to make sure that we have a place that's completely accessible and everything, so we need to look into where can we hold the event as well. So lots of things to consider, but I think the first one is finding a date. I think that using a weekend is probably the smartest choice for us, so we don't have any meeting fatigue, and so we can really take in all the training that will be shared. So by week's end, I can at least send out an email for us to start thinking about it, and we can start looking at a poll as well. Next up is an item that's a little bit easier, which is elections. We can just do that during the business portion of a meeting. That won't be an issue. I would like to wait until we have more folks present as well for that, so we can just look to that for the future.
After that, as Pam pointed out, I think that looking at a work plan session is something that we should not do at the same time as a training because I want to avoid fatigue once again. I do think that that's something that we could probably, I don't know if we need as much time for the training as we do for the work plan session. I would defer to you all for that. We could schedule an evening here at City Hall for that if you would like.
And didn't you have some sort of okay, there were handouts about the procedures, but you said you could have someone present to us about the rules and regulations of order.
You guys didn't like the presentation last year? I think that there's a video from one of the attorneys regarding the rules of order. As I probably harped upon last year, it's really important for you all to know about the parliamentary procedure so you can be empowered to make the decisions that you want to make and understand how to use them to your benefit. I would, I guess, tell, not ask, that you all need to send me topics for the training as well that you think would be insightful so we don't just have something as we did last. You guys sent me topics last year, but so we don't just have something that I think you all would be interested in. I want to know what you all are interested in so we can discuss those things. There can be some topics that we look at that are just going to be there no matter what, such as parliamentary procedure. But as we don't have a date, I will send out probably 2 emails so we don't get things confused. One about a training and then one about the planning session. And in the one for the training, I would ask that you guys send me back topics. You can do it via email, so there doesn't need to be any on-the-spotness, and you can ask questions freely, and then we'll get dates set up for both of those events, if that sounds good to all present.
Cool.
And then just want to thank once again Linnae for your service on this commission. As Kyle said, you've been sitting the longest, so we'll be losing an elder statesperson when you get off. But I think that, again, serving that long is wonderful. There's a lot of institutional knowledge that you have then, and just thank you once again. If Catherine's watching at home, thank her as well for her service. So you two will be sorely missed.
Won't be the same. That's everything in the report, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right, that opens it up for commissioner comments, like maybe Linnae, if anything to say.
No, it's been a pleasure. It's been fun. I've learned a lot, more than I expected. And to the new candidates here, this is a great group. It's very fulfilling. It's very interesting. You kind of forced to learn some things because you're trying to figure out what's going on. I don't know what you're talking about. So, but we have fun as well. And there's a lot of committees that are doing some great work. And there's plenty of more to come. I just hope you bring your ideas and your dedication to grow the committee, because it's a lot to do in a lot of areas that have been untapped in the Kalamazoo area, and we want to be able to celebrate all of those. So congratulations to you and welcome. I know it's premature, but I probably won't be here when you officially start. But, and thank you to everyone who's been on the committee with me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, let's adjourn. Thank you.